Welcome to the Investor Shed Podcast with Nick Beveridge, the ultimate source for all things investing and beyond. For free tools, tips, and tricks, go to northidahorei.com. Johnny Ratautas is a former real estate agent who started his investing career off with house hacking. Listen in as he tells about his first house and how it funded the business that he loves working in today.
So he likes me to clap to sync up the audio with the video. So I'm going to do a clap, and then we'll start talking.
Okay. So clap?
We can both clap, yes. He hates that. He likes one clap, but we can both clap like maniacs to start.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Oof.
Johnny,
What's up?
how you been, man?
Good.
Good to see you. Johnny Ratautas.
Ratatitas. Ratautas.
You've got a last name that people look at on paper and they're like, fuck that.
Pretty much. I always start a conversation whenever someone asks me my last name, not by saying it, but by spelling it.
Okay.
Yep. I go R-A-T, and then that's all they gotta know.
Rat.
Ratautas. They never get it right.
And who would have
Ratautas.
known?
Mm-hmm.
Some days you go out just hunting rats.
Wrestling them. Peanut butter in them.
You own a pest control business.
Yes, so I own a pest control company.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, funny enough, love what I do. So,
You look like you're having fun.
I do have fun. Every day's a journey because no house is the same, especially when you're dealing with pests.
Right.
And it's almost like a meme too. I know a bunch of other pest control owners across the United States, so I network with them. And every time we get on like a conference call or whatever, it's actually pretty much most of it's just joking. Like something weird happens almost every day, and it's just a ball. It's funny.
I can imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I met at a real estate seminar back in 5-6 years ago.
Excuse me.
2014-ish.
Yeah, we did.
You were pretty young. I think you were 19. I think you.
I was like 18, or even 18. I was like turning 18 almost. It was right around that time. I think I just graduated, or was on my way to graduate. No, I had to have graduated by that time. But
it was the summertime. So that was your first year out of high school.
Yep, that's what it was. First year out of high school. Yep.
And you stumbled into a real estate seminar on your own, by the way.
Yes, it was on my own.
So what led up to that?
So first job, funny enough, I was a sandwich artist at Subway. So
they call him a sandwich artist?
Sandwich artist. Don't get that wrong. It's very offensive if you do. Make beautiful sandwiches.
Wait, you want me to not make offense to that?
Fine. No, very prestigious job for my first one. But so I started my first job, and that was like when I think I got hired on at like 15 and a half, like technically like a couple months before your legal age.
Yeah.
And that was in Washington or Spokane Valley. Worked there, got sick of it very quick. And then I actually, funny enough, was a caregiver and that was probably like 2 years after that, until I was like 18. And that's when I stumbled into a real estate investing course because I was getting very sick of working. Not necessarily working, I like working, but working for people, I guess.
Yeah.
And I got I was in the car going to work, and I heard a radio ad. It was like the Dan Merrill stuff or whatever. And I was like, oh, real estate investing. I had no clue about real estate.
Yeah.
No clue about the benefits of real estate. In fact, I thought it was an awful idea to buy and own real estate just because my parents did it, and they were very, they only ever owned one house. And long story short, they ended up, I think it was a short sale or something like that. So in the back of my tiny little brain, I just thought it was always a bad idea. Like you're gonna go bankrupt, or
so did they buy it like a peak or something, and then they had to sell while things were.
It was a kind of like a money situation. I'm not sure they were super financially savvy, and it's nothing against them or anything like that. It just is what it is. Actually, in fact, I think most people aren't exactly financially savvy, and that's why I think finance should really be taught in high school to a very high level, and it should be mandatory. And like I said, I'm pretty young. I just got out of high school, I don't know, say 5 years ago or so. And I don't ever remember learning about money or credit or how to build credit. It's like a super taboo subject, in fact. So.
And then when you get out of high school, that's all you. I mean, that's 80% of your life is trying to figure out your finances.
Yeah, and hopefully by that time you'd have it messed up and have to rebuild at that point. Like, oh, it's a credit card. I got a $500 limit. It's my first one, and you just rack it up, and you're only making like, I don't know what the average minimum wage is and the average like hourly.
Well, what does the sandwich artist get per hour?
So what I made, and I remember this clearly, every 2 weeks, because I wasn't full-time, and I think our full-time people were probably making like $500 every 2 weeks. I made like $280 every 2 weeks, $240 every 2 weeks on average. Yeah, not a lot of money, but it's the case. So when you're out of school, or let's say you have that job out of school or whatever, and you're not really taught about finances, that's not a lot to go off of, right? And let's say you get a credit card, not knowing about finances, that's what you're making. Let's say you maybe even make $1,000 or $1,500 a month, and you just rack up a bunch of credit card debt. You get like a Victoria's Secret credit card, or like a Ulta credit card, or a Best Buy credit card. The store cards that they offer you. Mm-hmm. You just rack it up because you think you have the money, but you don't. So now you're paying 25% interest on a credit card. It's a bad thing. So, but yeah, so that was where it kind of started. I guess it was a sandwich artist Subway. Then I was a caregiver, and then I heard that radio ad, and that's where I met you. Was it a 3-day thing, 2-day thing?
That was a 3-day seminar. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it was I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday, kind of all day thing.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense.
It actually was. I learned a lot from the short amount of time that I was there, and it kind of flipped me on my head from thinking that real estate was a really awful idea into like, okay, some people actually make money doing this. Like, what the heck? No idea. It had no clue, that you could even make money. I always thought it was a bad idea. Then I met you. What's funny is when I met you at that seminar, or when I think it was you and your brother that walked in, I had no clue who you guys were, and like the speaker, I forget his name, asked if people owned real estate. I think at that time, I'm not sure what your portfolio looked like, but you guys rose your hands, and I was like, okay, cool, you own a house. Okay, do you own rental real estate is what the dude said. You guys raised your hand, and I'm like, these guys look super young. What do you mean they own rentals? Like, what the heck is this? So as soon as I found that out, I'm like, okay, cool. Picked up my stuff and sat right next to you. I'm like, and I tried to pick.
And I was still pretty new to it at that time too. I had gone to lots of seminars in the past, and they kind of motivate me and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of funny how.
And honestly, if I never went to that seminar, like I've always wanted to do something, and either way, I would have probably done something. It's just I don't think it would have accelerated as fast as it did if I didn't. And learning from people is huge. I found that to be super important at this point, looking back. Yeah. So I really do appreciate that. That's like my other arm right now is working on getting more investments in real estate, to build more passive income, and to really grow your net worth, not even just, from the rental income you make, but from the debt that gets paid down, leveraging home loans to really actually build your wealth.
Yeah.
So,
So let's talk about, that weekend you learned a lot. Obviously you're motivated. I think you had reached out to me and you said, hey, if you ever, could I go with you if you ever go analyze deals or something like that?
Yeah. So I
think
remember
I
that.
invited you to one.
You did invite me to one. I remember going to that, and I mentioned, when I was asking you, I was like, any of your projects, paint for free or whatever, So, and so, I did go on that. You were analyzing a property, talking to a seller or something like that to potentially buy. So I learned a little bit from that, kind of how you were walking around and analyzing the deal. So that's kind of how that started.
And then you joined a real estate team?
I did. Yep. So
that.
You recommended a team, or one of the top teams in at the brokerage, and I interviewed with them for an ISA position. So not really a real estate agent at that point, but I still had to get licensed to chat about like home prices and stuff like that.
So talk about it. So people that are listening, probably 90% of them probably don't know ISA.
So an inside sales agent essentially, and I was almost like an OSA as well, or outside sales agent. I was kind of a mix between the two. And what that is you were essentially given both warm and cold leads, or website leads that come in, or also like a database that has already been built up of of people, like contacts and numbers and emails and whatnot. And my job was to call everyone and essentially turn cold leads into warm leads. So reconnect with people that, the team hasn't reached out to in a long time or something like that, along with getting a warm lead to potentially get in the office for an appointment, to essentially meet with an actual real estate agent, to go out and start seeing houses or to chat about what their home is worth for like a CMA. And that was my job, is just calling people.
Yeah.
Learning scripts was a big one. And that was it. Just spending a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, I mean, even though that's kind of grunt work and it can be a grind, doing that at a very young age really builds your skill set huge, setting you up for long term, not being afraid to get on the phones, because you wouldn't believe how many agents or other business owners get into the business and then all of a sudden reality kicks in and they know they have to do a lot of prospecting, or they have to get on the phone and talk to people and persuade people, or just make contacts in general. And that a lot of people are afraid of doing that, but because you were just thrown into that right away, do you think that kind of helped you with the business that you're working on now?
100%. It's the ugly work of almost any industry is marketing, or not even necessarily marketing. It's just lead generation or direct, sales with people. And no matter what industry you're in, you're selling. You're selling yourself. You're selling a product. You're selling a service. No matter what industry you're in, it doesn't matter. And in my head too, when I thought real estate agent, before I was actually thrown in the trenches too, I thought you're out like playing golf, driving a nice car, smoking a cigar, meeting people, and that's all you do. But that's you learn real quick that if you can't get in the trenches and do the dirty work, and really that's lead gen is the most important part in my opinion, because that's your funnel. That's the people you're going to be working with months down the line. You're not going to be busy if you don't.
Yeah.
You might get a couple one-offs, here and there, but to stay consistently busy, you're going to have to sell, or you're going to have to prospect and lead generate.
With any business.
Any business.
And it all starts with lead generation. That's why, 80 to 90% of businesses all fails, because they don't get that first key ingredient right. Lead generate, bring in more leads than you think you'll need, and
Absolutely.
then you can do your business from there. But you have to do that consistently, regularly,
and that's hyper
all
important.
up front.
Mm-hmm.
And most people want to skip that somehow, or think that they can pay money to market or something like that, but like actual phone prospecting or door to door or whatever. Yeah,
pounding the pavement, going door to door, getting on the phone, chatting with vendors. I mean, it's all important. And I've taken so much from being in real estate for the last 5 years that I've applied into my pest control business. That I think it really. I mean, without that prior experience, I would have no idea what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important, and with any business, like I said earlier, it's just prospecting can also look different in different businesses too, but it's just as important.
Yeah. I feel like if you can get that down, and just that, if you know how to prospect, if you get the whole concept, you can go out and do any business you want to do. You can get into any industry.
Literally any industry.
And you can crush it and just destroy your competition if you're really good at it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Which is what you've already done in a real short amount of time with your pest control business, I feel like.
No, I think there's a lot of great companies out here,
yeah.
A lot of good people. And I wouldn't want to say crush competition in a sense, because I actually love a lot of people in the area. But no, I'm a very competitive person. And I think over the next 4 or 5 years, I think I'll be able to edge pretty hard. And, the goal is to even do it sooner. But with any business, including real estate, it's honestly a long game. I mean, you can't expect to get into it the first month and instantly start making these big paychecks, because the reality sets in it's not going to happen. And if you're expecting that, it could really demoralize you when it just doesn't fall in your lap. And in my opinion, you really have to look at it in the scope. I like looking at things in like a 5-year time frame. And in fact, I think 5 years it's not necessarily short, but if you look at the scope of your life and what you're doing, it's pretty short. So I like looking at things in 5-year chunks, like where am I going to be in 5 years? How long is it going to take? And then I try to break it down into a year-long process, and then from a month-long process. And then okay, what do I need to do this week to potentially get to that 5-year point? And that 5-year point can get pretty scary when you actually look at it and what you want to accomplish. But no, I think prospecting is absolutely important in any sort of business. And yeah, you're going to face tons of, I guess the easiest way to put it is rejection. And you just got to deal with it. I mean, if you're going to own a business or go into real estate, you have to have some sort of thick skin, because if you don't, you're going to get demoralized.
Right.
I mean, people are going to tell you no. People are going to slam doors in your face or hang up on you on the phone, and you just got to keep doing it. And that's the tough part about lead gen too.
You just got to know it's all in the numbers.
It's all in the numbers.
Yeah.
And you just try to get better at what you're doing every single day, you know. And that's kind of the way I look at it, is whenever someone tells me no, I want to ask why, in a sense, you know. That's my big thing. It's like, a no doesn't mean someone hates me. It could have got them on a bad day. It doesn't really matter why they said no. Or it does matter, I'm sorry, why they say no, in a sense. Because most of the time when you get rejected by someone, it's not because they dislike you as a person. Or they're just mean. It's just
timing.
It's timing. A lot of times, you know, you can chat with someone.
Not right now.
Not right now.
That's all it is. And
so that's my big
80+% of the time.
And that's what you have to learn and realize. And I think that's really good perspective, because, like I said, if I started, you know, my other business without having the perspective that I got in real estate, I think it would have been it's a school of hard knocks, essentially, you know. And I got taught that in real estate from, you know, 5 years ago. This is a really good learning experience. So now when someone says no, I don't care. I don't, you know, have a great day. And then I'll call you again. You know?
Yeah.
So that's just important, you know. And I look at myself, no matter what industry I'm in, as honestly a salesman. It's a dirty word to some people, but realistically it shouldn't be. Everything in life is you're selling everything. You're talking to your kids, you're trying to get them to go to bed at a certain time, or you're trying to get them to, you're selling. Yeah. It's exactly what it is. You know, you're trying to convince someone, you know, that either your product or service is beneficial to them, or that brushing their teeth at night is going to help them instead of hurt them. They might dislike you for it for a while, but they'll realize eventually. So I think in general, sales is essential.
It's not going away.
Never. It will never go away.
So let's talk about real estate. It's a real estate podcast. You're not really going to have anybody on the show unless they're an investor, and you are an investor.
Absolutely.
Tell me about the first property you bought and how you did it, and spoiler alert, you're a house hacker.
Yes, I love house hacking.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's
awesome tactic for your first property. So.
Yes. So that's what I did at first, and it still am doing. So I bought a property in Post Falls. Is that 2016 now? 4 years ago? Yeah, I believe it was 2016. And that was like, I think, only my first year into the real estate team. I really wasn't making a whole lot of money. And what's crazy, if you think about real estate too, is you don't necessarily need a whole lot of money to get in. No. It's scary when you think about it if you have no perspective or if you have no past experience with it. But really, if you chat with like a good real estate agent, they'll be able to set you straight. I got on with an FHA loan. No or low down. I did not put much money down.
3.5% is what they were.
Yeah, but there was.
But you also have like a lot of local governments.
Yes.
Maybe have.
So I went through a down payment. It was a down payment assistance or something like that. I took a class.
So it covers another 3%. So in Idaho, you have to come up with a 0.5%.
0.5%, and I bought
lower than if you needed to get into a rental.
No, seriously, yeah.
In most cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's funny because you can potentially buy a house for cheaper than you could, you know, like I said, do or like you said, you know, put a deposit and all that on a rental. And so I got in for almost no down. And
well,
go ahead.
I mean, it was under 200,000.
It was under 200,000. Yeah.
And you need 0.5%, so we're talking under.
It was like
under $1,000. Man. Wait, right?
It was like 1,500 or something like that. 1,500. Yeah. Actually, 0.5%. But there was also a couple closing costs tied up in there. But it was it was about $1,000, more or less.
Because you got your closing costs wrapped into the deal too, right?
Yep. So I had
the seller.
So the seller. So the seller paid closing. Essentially, is how it got wrapped up.
Okay.
And so we got into the house. Great house. as soon as I got in, we were house hacking, essentially renting out the rooms, which is fantastic because, you know, it really helps support, you know, even if you're not, even if you don't think you can afford it, there's a lot of ways you can afford it, essentially.
So tell me about the house. How big is it? And which room did you take? And did you rent out to friends, family?
So I rented one room out to family and another room out to friend.
Okay, so you had a 3-bedroom house?
It was a 3-bed, 2.5 bath. Rented out both rooms, and then obviously we had the master.
Okay.
But
do you remember your mortgage payment?
Oh, it was
about
$1,100.
Okay.
No, it was just over $1,000. It was $1,050.
$1,050. Okay. Yep. And then do you remember what you were getting in rents from the 2 rooms?
It was enough to cover the mortgage.
Enough to cover. Okay, so you're living for free.
Yep.
In a nice newer house, right?
Yep.
This was a newer house.
It was it was a newer house. It was built in. I bought it in 2000 and yikes, I forget 2016. It was built only 4 years prior. I think maybe even less.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a newer house. Yeah. Not the biggest house or anything, you know, but it was a newer house. It was a nice house. Nothing was wrong with it.
Right.
And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love house hacking. I'll do it until my wife absolutely won't let me do it anymore. So
another thing too, did you since you were licensed at the time, did you get to keep the commission?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was another bonus, right?
That was a bonus. That was a cherry on top. Mm-hmm.
So you got in with nothing down if you count the commission that you had, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. About how much was that? A few $1,000s?
The commission. So since it was a personal deal, I didn't really have to pay too many splits or anything on that. Yeah. There's just a couple of small fees that I had to pay. I think it was like $4,000 or $5,000 actually, a commission on that, because I got to keep the whole thing.
Yeah, and you needed about a little over $1,000 to close. So you probably got what, $3,500 to buy a house.
To buy a house, yeah. Yep.
Get your license, everyone. If you're gonna do this,
it can help. Yeah, no, getting a license could really help investing too.
So you got paid to buy this house, and then while you lived there, you lived there for free.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought that couldn't be done. You made it happen.
Yeah.
How long did you live there?
3 years.
3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did anything ever go crazy wrong? Did you have to evict anyone?
Yeah.
Any cool stories?
Yeah, so the friend. Yeah, so we did have to have a fierce conversation with a friend.
Fierce conversation.
Yeah, and I still love him to this day. We still hang out and whatnot. But sometimes living situations can change the relationship between friends and roommates and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went out of state for, I think it was a couple of days or a week for a family event. We get back and the house was like, it wasn't destroyed, but it was everything was sticky.
Oh, okay.
Like the cabinets were sticky, the countertops were sticky, like our blinds were all folded up, and I'm like, I wonder what happened here. And I threw a giant rager at the house, and my wife was not okay with that. They found like ping pong balls and stuff, kind of all over the place, and that was kind of a clear thing that we kind of established a boundary.
Yeah.
That hey, you know, please don't throw a party and ruin my stuff.
Sounds like a good party. If all the blinds are sticky.
Yeah, no, it was probably pretty fun. I was kind of sad I wasn't invited. You know, but that was kind of the start of that whole process, and eventually, you know, he ended up leaving, and you know, we left on good terms and everything like that. It just didn't work out personally, and so essentially we rented out to another family member at that point.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're house hacking, do you have lease agreements with your roommates?
Not on the first one. Not that whole 3 years, no lease agreement. It was just essentially cash, going into a bank account. Now I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And I would probably recommend it. It's a little more. How do I put it? It's just a lot better. So there's a lot more clarity. And I would always have a lease agreement in place, whether I'm house hacking, or renting a property.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
So 3 years down the road, you decide to sell. What made you want to sell?
We gained a lot of equity in the property during the time we were there, along with the market increasing in value. And it was a great first house. And realistically, I could have possibly kept it. It would have been kind of tough depending on what we were doing at the time. But what I did was I sold it and rented actually for about 7 months, and I hated it. I was in an apartment while we were looking for the next deal. Because what I really wanted to buy was a multifamily. I really wanted to start getting into multifamily housing or units, or even kind of what I did, which would be buying a single family that really would work for a multifamily and convert it into one. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but we did find a really awesome deal that the home was located on an R2 zoned lot, so essentially a multifamily lot, and that made everything and all the legalities like perfect. And you definitely go ahead.
So, do you mind sharing when you sold this house? How much in proceeds did you wind up with?
After fees and everything,
yeah.
I need to remember what the check was. It was just under $80,000.
Under $80,000. Okay.
It was like $79,000.
So you
that was
were
after everything.
So you bought this house that was newer, and you got a check for buying it, and then you got to live there for free for 3 years, and then you go and sell it, and then you get another check for almost $80,000.
Yep.
Not bad.
Nope. Not bad at all. Owning
this is why real estate is so awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I'll always be doing it.
Yeah.
I'll always be in it.
Now, a lot of people might be thinking, if they haven't done this before, okay, so that $80,000, that must be taxed like crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. But it's not.
No? How much in taxes did you pay?
Zero. Mm-hmm.
And that's because you lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years?
Yep.
So the government gives you a what do they call it? No tax.
Oh, it's no capital gains, essentially?
Just no capital gains.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the term, but no, since it's your primary residence, yeah, if you live there for 2 years, yeah, you won't get taxed capital gains on that, short or long term.
Even though it was somewhat of an investment property, you still didn't have any taxes because it was your primary residence that you were living in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And what there's a couple of nuances to it as you grow too when it comes to adding more stuff into your portfolio, but another thing. I hate paying taxes. I really do. And so
I don't know a lot of people that love it, but
I know, right? Most of the time, people don't really like giving up a bunch of their money. So, but there's a lot of ways, and the more you learn about real estate, it's just a fantastic investment. To where even if you're not just buying one property at a time, and you have multiple properties in your portfolio, there's a lot of ways to actually transfer your equity in certain properties to other properties without paying any taxes as well. There really is. For like a 1031 exchange, if you guys don't know what that is pretty sweet. You transfer maybe lower performing properties into higher performing properties, and guess what? It's a tax deferment. You're not paying taxes. You're just deferring it.
We talked about this on the Sean Dolan podcast a couple weeks ago. But if you guys want to learn more about that, I would check out that podcast. Sean Dolan, he talks about how he basically did a 1031 on 20 units out in Spokane to over 130 over in the Midwest, and got to defer all those capital gains over time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to do it. I mean, the more you learn about real estate, the more you really realize how awesome of an investment it is, especially if done right. So that's where a lot of what my net worth is going to come from.
Tell me about your next property that you bought.
Oh, okay. So the one that we're in right now. So we bought it. It was an older house, older than the one we sold. Okay. But the layout was perfect for what we were looking to do. We either wanted to buy a duplex, a triplex or a quad, or get into a single family that we can essentially turn into a duplex. Okay. So we went with, after months of searching, we went with the single family to turn into a duplex. So we got it at a really great price. And it worked out perfectly because the basement windows were all conforming to fire code, because it's essentially a split level. It's not like a full basement with the tiny little windows. Okay. It's in an area that's zoned multifamily, so in Post Falls would be considered R2. And what else was really cool about it? Oh, and it's in the opportunity zone in Post Falls. There's one, which is a new thing, and it's a little complicated to chat with about, I would say, on this podcast. But it's a really cool thing to buy stuff in opportunity zones long term for tax reasons as well. Yeah.
And we talk about opportunity zones. Sorry, I'm going to refer back to another podcast. Yeah. In depth with Kevin Cross on the very first podcast, episode number 1. Kevin Cross. Check that out. I think it's towards the end of the podcast, but we go into depth about opportunity zones, and it is very complicated, but just a huge hidden gem.
It is, and really not a lot of people either. A lot of people don't even know they exist. No clue, and they could be a great strategy. Or it's just another tool in your belt.
Yeah.
When it comes to investing. So, but what we did is, again, it's a single family home. It's 2,400 square feet about. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath. So the way it's laid out is 2 beds are on top, 2 beds are on bottom, 1 bath on each level as well.
Yeah.
The windows were great. We didn't have to do anything with that. The zoning was great. Didn't really have to do much with that. And it had a wet bar downstairs. So they already had water plumbed it was just like a little sink and a little countertop.
So you got a kitchen.
So we had a kitchen, so we didn't have to do any plumbing. So all we really did was we tore that wet bar out. We put new cabinetry and countertops and a sink in. We added essentially a breakfast bar on the other side. So we put up a wall, or not a wall, but breakfast bar with wiring and whatnot. We had a 240 run in, a couple 110s. We built it all to code essentially too. So we added the kitchen in there and did flooring down there. The carpet was awful. We tore that out. It was pretty gross. Just original, nasty, really thick carpet. So we put LVT down there. So essentially we turned that whole downstairs into another unit.
Nice.
And so the issues that we had with the old house, with, again, house hacking, which I absolutely love, but again, you're all sharing the same kitchen, same spaces for the most part. Right. We were able to resolve that by, now we have 2 separate spaces,
Gotcha.
2 separate
kitchens.
So you're
just sharing the entryway.
We're just sharing the entryway right now.
Gotcha.
And we do.
And I've seen a lot of conversions on
Mm-hmm.
these split level homes where they'll put a door at the bottom of the stairs and a door at the top of the stairs. Mm-hmm. So the entry is shared, but then you have 2 more exterior doors. Have you thought about doing anything like that?
That's absolutely. So that's our next project on it. So our situation's a little specific, so I can't really say do this, do that when it comes to what your strategy is, but it's working for us. So we're actually renting to family again, and it's and
why not?
Well, they wanted to. So and it works out because we know them, we trust them, and again, with it being more of a separate space, we get into each other's hair a lot less. There's really not a whole lot of conflict.
Do you guys share the garage?
So the garage is ours.
Okay.
We don't share the garage. They park on the street, and that's part of the deal. And this house, funny enough, has alleyway on the back.
Yeah.
And it actually has a gate and almost like a perfect 2-car parking space in the back.
Nice.
So we do have ample parking.
Now, is this zoned where you can maybe build an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard since you have an alley? And like have a small detached?
Actually,
attached?
that's a great idea. And I'll look into that because I don't know.
Okay.
That wasn't what I was looking for originally when it came to the property, so I'll definitely look into that.
Okay.
Because that would be pretty sweet, and we might actually consider doing something like that.
Because I've done conversions before, and it can be very complicated. But if you're not officially a duplex on that unit that you're living in, and it works for you, you can just build the accessory dwelling unit on the backyard.
Yep.
And then you have essentially a triplex.
Yep. That is true, and what's cool is depending on how you do a conversion too, like if you don't completely seal off one unit from the other from the inside, it's technically still a house.
Yep.
Maybe there's a door there, the door can have a lock on it, and the door will never be open possibly. Well, it depends on how it's all done. But it's still a house.
Yeah.
Just a house with another unit, a mother-in-law suite essentially, and it's your house, you can do what you want with it.
What are your long-term plans with this place? Do you think you'll move out of it in a year
Yeah,
or
long-term
two?
I'll definitely be moving out of it. I actually I like it more than the last house, so we'll probably be in it for a while.
Okay.
So either we'll be buying other properties while staying in this one and renting those other properties out, doing a renovation on them and then renting. And eventually we might move out of it and then we'll either rent. We're not entirely sure what the plan is to rent, whether it's going to be both units in a sense or the house itself. Either way will work out and the numbers make sense. It caps well, and it'll be good. So it'll just be on which way we want to take it, whether we want to rent both or just one. But after I ran the numbers on it, it'll work out either way. Light, come back on.
These darn lights. Turn off.
There we go. Got it.
It's like that episode of The Office.
Oh, yeah.
You seen that? Or Dwight Bytes building and switches all the lights.
Yeah, and he's taking the plies of the toilet paper and stuff. Yeah, that was a funny one. So
that's his office, exactly. Lights shut off on you every time.
There you go. You got to save that money somehow. But yeah, great idea with the doors. That, like I said, that's our next. That's literally our next.
Next project.
Next project. Yeah. So we just don't know whether or not we want to cut out an exterior door, which would be more expensive. Or if we do want a shared front, because the landing is really big. And then you have stairs going up, stairs going down, and then into the garage, another door.
Okay.
But I was considering framing out the top, putting in a door. So it's essentially like an apartment, like an interior access, and then you have the two doors. That would probably be the easiest way, and that's what I'm thinking about doing. So
tell me what, so you're in real estate sales for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to transfer and get out of that and start your own business in the pest control industry?
A couple things. Real estate's fantastic, especially the selling part of it. You learn a lot. You can make a ton of money doing it as well.
And you were doing pretty well too, right?
Yep.
I mean, you were keeping busy.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of shocked to see you leave because most agents that I see leave the business, it's because they're not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting to see switch gears and do something else. But looks like you're having a lot of fun with it. So sorry I interrupted.
Yeah, you're fine. So it's the same reason that I essentially went into that real estate investing seminar in the first place. I got into real estate not necessarily to sell real estate. That just happened naturally.
Yeah.
Because, real estate, investing in real estate, selling real estate kind of just made sense to do it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun and still will have fun doing it. I'm just doing more referrals at this point. But the reason why I got out of real estate, the sales part of real estate or being a real estate agent directly, is that let's say you make, I don't know, $100,000 a year, right? Selling real estate, for example, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Next year you're making, I don't know, 120, 150. Next year you make 200. Doesn't really matter. What if one year you get sick? You're not selling anymore. You're not out in the field as much. Well, your income drastically drops. You don't really have equity in what you're doing as much. And that's one of the reasons that
it's just a job.
It's a job
that you got to show up to.
It's a great job.
Yeah.
It's a hard job.
Unless you have a lot of leverage in place. And I mean, there are some agents that have teams and they don't necessarily have to be there. I mean, it functions. That's when you're transferring more from self-employed to a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, 95% of the agents out there, they bought themselves into a job, and if they don't show up, they don't make anything.
Yep, and now it's my main thing. It's a great job, like I said. It's a hard job, but the reason why I got into investing, the reason why I wanted to get into real estate investing is to build long-term wealth, through real estate, and also build passive income along, with building my net worth as well. And it just made sense for me to look into other industries, that I wanted to potentially get into, and to build a brand. I didn't necessarily buy into a franchise. I built my own brand when it came into pest control. Yep.
Okay.
And
it's pretty cool branding. I mean, it almost seems like a franchise, the way it's set up.
Yeah.
I almost thought it was a franchise just because of the name and everything and the logo. It looks all pretty legit.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a facade. No, I'm kidding.
Facade.
No. So I wanted to own something. I wanted to be able to potentially franchise it in the future. That's why I'm building it the way I'm building it too. And it's just having equity in what you do is what I wanted. It's my baby, and I want it to eventually take care of me when I'm older and can't take care of it. It's a lot of work up front, tons of work up front. But I like that I like that stuff. I like top down, finding what works, different strategies. And I also like building. I'm a builder. So that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to get into my own business necessarily, is to be able to build something, to do it 5 years from now I could sell it if I wanted to. I probably won't because I love it. Yeah. But I have the choice to do so. And it's also another thing, I want to be able to take care of the people that work for me as well. And to build something truly special is what I really wanted to do. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted to get out of direct sales in real estate and to build a company is having equity in something, having it be worth something tangible.
Yeah. So could you give the people out there an idea who haven't started a business before, what kind of capital it takes, and what kind of what are some of the steps that you got to do right away, like day one? I'm going to start this pest control business. What do? You come up with a name, logo first.
Man, that's a really tough question.
Do you go to classes to figure out how to do what you're doing? Somebody in the industry that you've worked with before?
Knowing someone in the industry definitely helps. I've always been, and this is what's funny, it's the same thing with real estate, almost like a fake it till you make it. Like if you want to do something, even though you don't have everything perfectly aligned, because you'll never have stuff perfectly aligned, you either have to do it or don't. And if you just choose to jump in and you're committed and you're working hard, a plan of action will follow. It's definitely good to have an idea of where you're going, but you won't know everything. The best companies in the world, the highest performing that consistently beat the market, they don't always have a concrete idea where they're going or a concrete plan. They have plans, but it's not like, if you look at Apple, they know exactly what products they're going to be selling in 5 years because something else could happen. You have to have some sort of flexibility there. For someone starting new, I would recommend, if you're going to do something, you spend time working on your logo, spend time working on, how it's going to look. Because especially if it's something that grows big, it's something they're going to be looking at. That's brand recognition. It's good to like what you built. But when it comes to business itself, it's going to come down to the lead generation more so than what your stupid logo looks like. Yes, eventually once you become national or something really big, that brand recognition, the marketing is going to become a lot more important than when you're just starting out. Yeah. It really is. It's going to be pounding the pavement, meeting with business owners, meeting with people that are in your industry, or meeting with the customers that are directly buying whatever service or product that you're going to be selling. But as for like startup capital, you don't have to spend a lot of money to start. You really don't. Just buying the essentials with whatever business you're going in. But I would say what I started with, I spent probably more than the average person would when they start a pest control company. Yeah. Most likely, because I had some money from real estate, and it's something that I knew I was going to commit to.
So the real estate helped fund your business.
100%.
100%. That house, I'm guessing.
Or
being able to save.
I save. I'm a saver.
You didn't have a.
Yeah, so I'm a saver. I don't like spending a whole lot of money. It's just the way I am. Mm-hmm. And I built my personal finances revolve around being as low impact as possible financially while still being able to enjoy yourself a ton. And so that's where that house hacking comes into play, to where I don't have to take a lot of money from my business to support myself. That's huge because I can reinvest back into the company all the time. And that's my strategy. I keep reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting back into the company to be able to just do cool stuff and grow it, because I truly love it. And for someone that's going into business for themselves, brand new, biggest piece of advice is make sure you're not just doing it because you think you're going to make money doing it. Don't just hop into stuff because you see someone else doing it and that they're making money. You don't know how long it took them to start making money. Mm-hmm. You don't know their motivations behind that business. You don't know how much they love the business or don't like the business or whatever. But make sure it's something that you're going to like. In fact, that you're going to love doing. And if you go into it with that mindset, you don't have to start with a bunch of money. You could probably honestly start a company in pest control maybe under $10,000, maybe. You might be a little janky for a little while, but you could probably do it. Uh-huh. And 10,000 might seem like a lot to a lot of people, but
no, not for a business.
Not for a business. And if you just stop drinking coffees for a while, you can save up the money to do it. I probably spent about $50,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You bought a van and a bunch of equipment, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the van to start itself, because it's a solo operator, right? That was like $25,000. That was half of the startup costs. Yeah. So.
And you're probably glad you got a great van. You're not
100%.
Showing up with a clunker
no,
to your job site.
Yeah, and like my thing is, if you look at my brand and the branding and kind of how we represent ourselves, we're a highly credible business in the area, and I want to portray that and keep that up. It's not required. You can show up with a clunker if that, but the thing is, it's also there's the sales part of it. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to project what you're doing to the customer and make sure they're comfortable with what you're going to be doing, right? And I'm in houses every day.
Yeah.
I'm selling every single day.
And almost every appointment you go on, so do you follow up with just about everybody and ask them to review you on Google, Facebook, that kind of stuff? Or have you weaned off of that since you have so many more reviews than most people know? Or
no, there's still plenty of companies with reviews. I think it's highly important to ask for feedback. I think it's highly important to ask for that. One, it keeps your customers engaged. And it's just something else to talk about too when either you're at the door, when you're following up with them. It's the email that like you sent will have your branding on it. It's another touch. Can you provide feedback? And I took a lot from how Keller Williams operates with their database and spheres on how many times you should touch a client, whether it's direct mail, whether it's emails, whether it's phone calls, to follow up with my people. I think that helps a lot. Yeah, absolutely. I think no, I have not weaned off of that.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to keep doing it.
So right now, is it just you?
For North Idaho, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it's just me.
Mm-hmm. What's the next step?
The next step, so the next step, we will be hiring servicemen or service technicians.
Okay.
And what's cool about, if you're in a relationship with somebody, or if you have a wife and she's super supportive of what you're doing, at a certain point, if you get to where the business can support your lifestyle or your bills and whatnot consistently without your significant other having to work, for example, well, if they're comfortable with it, they can help you grow the business as well without to essentially avoid the first scary part about your first hire, right? So like for us,
scary.
It's incredibly scary because it's also a really big expense. So there's a lot of work that can get taken off your plate just by having someone like a significant other help with that. So for scheduling and calling, my significant other helps with that, which allows me to go and to do what I do best as well, which is go in the field and take care of my customers, make sure they're super happy and do what I got to do. But we will be hiring, absolutely. That'll be the next step. I would probably say this summer. This summer, maybe mid to early summer, we'll be hiring people.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Hope it goes well. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, yeah.
What's the name of your company again?
It's Kaptar Environmental.
Okay.
Yep.
Kaptar Environmental.
Pest Control Services.
And what kind of services do you offer?
So we offer any sort of pest control, whether it's ants, rodents, bees, wasps, yellow jackets, not honeybees. So don't freak out on me.
No honeybees?
No honeybees. No, we're big on that. And we also offer sanitation services. So if a raccoon or you have a really bad rodent infestation, they make your place really disgusting and you have to change insulation and stuff, we go there and deal with that too.
Yeah, I had a squirrel in the walls of one of my rentals that you helped me out with.
I remember that. Yeah, that exclusion was fun. So
Thanks.
No, it was fine. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what we do. So we're really big on customer service. Like we have an Amazon approach to it. Like if anyone is unhappy in any way, we make it right either by coming back over and over again to solve a problem, or we just offer a full refund. And it is what it is. Yeah. That almost never has to happen. But we are big on customer retention and service, so we'll do whatever we can to make them happy.
Yeah, so your customers are everything.
Okay, your customers are everything. They're your people. You have to treat them right. Once you stop treating them right, that's when I think a company starts, failing in its duties. You have to treat your people. Okay, they're not there to pay you. That's not their purpose. It's just to funnel you money. Yeah. They're highly important and they should be taken care of.
Yeah, if you're not taking care of your customers, you're doomed to fail fast too, I would imagine. And this is a small town. People talk.
Yeah, people talk. It's a small town spread out.
Referrals.
Yeah, word of mouth is huge, and getting out there is huge. And like I said, it's your reputation is more important than a lot of people think it is. It's massive. You might not notice now if you start treating people poorly or you don't have poor customer service, but you will notice it 3 years from now. You will notice it 2 years from now potentially. it's not instant. It's not instant bad thing, but it'll grow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
Sweet.
Well, I'm very proud of you,
Mm-hmm.
all that you've done in the last few years, and keep at it. We'll keep in touch.
Heck yeah.
Johnny, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for
That's
doing
exciting.
this. Clap for Jeremy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Investor Shed podcast. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for instant access to all future episodes. If you or someone you know has investing experience or stories to share, reach out to us in the comments or via email.